I'm Chris Shattuck, and this is Configuring Text Formats and Setting Up a WYSIWYG. In this chapter, we dig deep into how to configure text formats and create a new text format. We then install and configure a WYSIWYG library and explain the challenges of using WYSIWYGs in practice. In the last chapter, we ended by talking a bit about what text formats are and how we use them in Drupal. The general idea is that we input something into Drupal, and then when it gets output, we then use text formats in order to change the output in some way. In some cases, it's meant to enhance the output. In other cases, it's meant to filter or sanitize the output, just in case we can't trust the users who are inputting the content. And in this chapter, we're going to start by taking a closer look at text formats and how we can manipulate them. Go ahead and jump to the browser where you're logged in as an administrator, and go ahead and go to Configuration in the admin bar. If you look under the Content Authoring section, you see an item called Text Formats. This is where we can modify the text formats and how they work. Go ahead and click on this, and you see there's a list of potential formats available. There's the filtered HTML one, which we talked about briefly when we were just editing content. This is the format that's enabled for all users. You can see under this column the roles that can access this format, and for this it's anonymous user, authenticated user, and administrator, which means that anybody can use this format. We have a couple of operations here, configure and disable. We also have the full HTML text format as well as a plain text. Now notice that it says here all roles may use this format, so this is another one that can be used too. And if you remember from when we were editing our Zimbabwe Adventures tour, that we had the options of choosing between plain text and filtered HTML, but not full HTML. Let's go ahead and take a look at the configuration for filtered HTML right here. I'm going to click on the configure link. Okay, so at the top we have the name, and in this case it's filtered HTML, and notice that a machine name gets created for it as well. These are the roles that can access this format. Right now, simply by being set to anonymous and authenticated, it's available to all users. I'm going to scroll down here. We have a list here of enabled filters. And so these are the different filters that stack on top of one another in order to be used inside of the text format. So a format is made up of filters. Without filters, a format wouldn't do anything to the input. So there are several that are checked here for the filtered HTML text format. The first one is limit allowed HTML tags, which if you remember when we were looking at the tips below the text formats option, below our description for our tour, it listed the tags that were allowed inside of that field. This next one is display any HTML as plain text, and it's unchecked. Another filter is convert line breaks to HTML, so for example break and paragraph tags. So this is what changes the new lines inside of the text area into new lines in an HTML format. The convert URLs to links option is available, as well as correct faulty and chopped off HTML. So for example with this one, if there wasn't an ending tag for a tag that was inside of the content, then it would get added to it in order to not break the content on the rest of the page. Okay, so these are the filters that we have to work with.